And we're live. Welcome to episode 51 of the Entrepreneur Experiment with me, your host, Gary Fox. We've something a little bit different this week. We have a recap of every guest's main principle lesson. And I'll explain why in a minute. When I started this, I thought, you know what, this would be really interesting. And this would be a nice quick recap. But when I went back and started pulling through all the episodes, there was just so much to take in that it took me, I think, nearly 2 days. Anyway, we're here. A couple of quick housekeeping bits before we start. I now have a YouTube channel. I'm looking up at the board here to confirm the camera's here in front of me, so I'm still getting used to the microphone and the camera simultaneously, so bear with me on that one. We now have a YouTube channel, The Entrepreneur Experiment. Just search for it on YouTube. Go subscribe. Every episode will also now be up on video form. That might be of interest to you, it might not, but subscribe anyway. We have a new format as well, so we're going to try some new formats. I put up a poll on Instagram, if you follow me there. I also put it up on LinkedIn. Sorry, itchy nose. And I was trying to get feedback on where we want to take the pod. Okay, so we've got to 50 episodes. Where do we want to go with this? Because, you know, it's a big commitment for me, and it's a bigger commitment from you, because it's a huge part of someone's week to take an hour to listen to me. So I really do appreciate it. I want to make sure that we're giving as much feedback or as much positivity as we can, and you know, listen to what people want, and you know, tailor the content that way. We're in a really weird place in the world. We're in a really, really weird place, and I have to be receptive to that, and I have to be open to changing and open to evolving the content, because what you guys need will change, and what I need will change, and what I want to talk about will change. So we'll continue to evolve. Look, we've done 50. Let's push on and see, can we get to the 100 as quick as possible. And on that topic, so got a lot of good array of ideas back. Thank you to everyone. I know I put a lot of stuff out there. It means a massive amount of people actually take the 2 minutes to shoot me a quick DM or shoot me an email or a LinkedIn message, whatever it is. It makes a massive difference, because I do incorporate all that then into my thought process and into what I'm thinking about for the pod. So thank you. And the main feedback I got back was do some shorter episodes, which was kind of my key. Secretly, that was the main reason why I put it out. I wanted to see would there be an appetite for that, because the hour episodes do take a long time. As I mentioned earlier, this episode took, I would estimate, maybe 10 hours to put together so far, and haven't done the editing yet. So, you know, there is a lot of work that goes into it, so I want to make sure that there's bang for people's buck, that they're getting a lot out of it. And I'm thinking more primarily for new listeners as well. You know, when you go to a podcast and you see like it's an hour long, you're like, oof, not sure I want to commit a whole pile to that. So new, smaller episodes might also help us grow the listenership, and you know, it's fun to try out new things, new formats. Sit up straight, realize on my camera. It's new formats. So I'm going to do quick 5 to 10 minute episodes. They'll vary in format. I'll try and tweak and get things in a different way. Next week, I'm going to do a quick one on top of possibly the longer interview style as well. And I'm going to talk about COVID ideas. Talk about ideas that are coming out of COVID, businesses that are pivoted, how you can pivot your business, maybe things you can do and incorporate. So I'll also have guests on to talk about new ideas with me. That's something I'm really passionate about. I'm in a mentorship group with some fellow entrepreneurs, and we kind of mentor each other through, you know, usually we meet monthly, but during COVID we're actually meeting weekly now via Zoom, and it's so beneficial to have other people to kind of bounce ideas off, and to be able to just, you know, talk about your fears and your ideas and where you're going with things, and just get unbiased feedback and get honest feedback. So yeah, we'll get some of those guys on, and we'll talk about kind of what we're thinking, where things are going with COVID, you know, as we look towards a longer time horizon, inverted quotes, you know, with this, how do we need to adapt? What do we need to do as entrepreneurs? How can we come out of this positively and, you know, make the most of it? I don't mean that in a capitalizing way, but I mean, you know, businesses are going to suffer. My own business has suffered. I'm able to do the podcast for 8 to 10 hours because my own business is completely on pause. So things like that. And a new idea, which I'm very excited about, the nerd that I am, we're going to do a Entrepreneur Experiment book club. Drum roll. Well, drum roll should have been before, but you get the idea. So we're going to do a book club starting in June. So I'm still working on the format, but I think what we'll do is on the 29th of May, I'll announce what book we're going to read. And then over June, all my fellow nerds can join in and we'll read that book. And then episode at the end of June, we'll have a quick episode and we'll talk about, you know, the key learnings we took from it. I don't know what the format of that will be yet. Maybe like a giant Zoom or maybe like a giant episode where you get like listeners on to talk about it, and you know, people who really got into it and people who took different things out of it. Because one thing I'm trying to do during COVID is rethink how I think about a lot of things. So reading is one of them. I'm a massive reader. I love reading. I read in the morning and at night. And one thing last year I was like, oh, I'm going to read a book a week, which I thought was a great plan because, yeah, you know, read more, you know, learn more. But I found I was flying through the books. I was literally bursting through them. I do one a week minimum on top of like the fiction I'd read at night. So I read non-fiction in the morning just to kind of learn when the brain's alive, and then at night just read fiction, thrillers, whatever, biographies, just to kind of wind down. I found I was flying through the books, and then I'd look back and I hadn't actually learned that much from it because my focus was on speed. How many books can I read this year? When really it should be, you know, what are you getting from them? Like, so now I'm reading in a very different way. I might do an episode on that because now I read, this is super nerdy, so you can skip on if you're not into books. I literally will read with a pen. I'll highlight different bits. I'll make notes in the margins. Then I'll transfer those notes into a notebook. So each chapter I get like 2 to 3 learnings from each one. So anyway, the book club is happening. If you want to get involved, send me your suggestions for books. It'll be hard to pick one that either people haven't read before or, you know, that everyone's into, but we'll try pick an interesting book as possible, possibly something new, possibly something that's out in the last couple of months to start with anyway, and then we can go back and look at the classics. Heard a great quote this week. I'm not going to butcher it now, but it's read lots of books and read the great ones multiple times. So we might go back and look at great books. I've done that this week. A friend of mine, Gareth Flower, mentioned the 5am Club. I had actually gone through and read bits of that before, and it just didn't land with me at all. And something I think Siobhan O'Hagan said in one of the earlier episodes of the podcast was the right book at the right time. So for me, that was the right book at the wrong time. And now, back in COVID, my mind was open to it. It was open to the philosophy of it. So the right book at the right time. Right, on to the episode today. Here we go. I've gone through every single episode and picked out my key learning from them. Everyone will have different learnings, but my key learning. So kicking off right back, rewind to episode number, I think it was 2, with Tommy Courtney. He was the founder of Prelo. He's now been acquired by Perch Peak in the UK. And his advice was, listen to advice, but learn how to filter it. So bear in mind, people have said the gist of these things, but I've put my own kind of spin on it. These are my learnings from it as well. So even I've taken different learnings. So everyone's going to give you advice. And everyone means well. No one means to give you bad advice, but the advice they're giving you is tinged by their own experiences and is coloured by their own experiences. So they might be right, they might be wrong. The key is to get advice from loads of people, collate it all together, and then trust your instincts and go with that. Moving on to David Delahunty. He's a great friend of mine. He's a serial founder. He is running so many businesses, it's crazy. Designer's Humour, Grow Your Clicks. So it's worth checking David out if you're looking for ideas. He does 5 ideas a day. He's an ebook on that as well. So his advice was build your audience. So even if you're not starting your business right now, build your audience. Because when you start your business, acquiring customers is going to be very tough. Because you're brand new, you've no track record. Whereas if you start building your audience now, when you go to launch your product, you'll have hopefully built up an audience, even if it's only 100 people. That's 100 people who could potentially be customers. They've built a relationship with you. They know your story. So build your audience. No matter what you're starting, build your audience. You'll learn skills. You'll learn communication skills. Build some sort of audience. Then number 3, with Fabio Male, founder of Funky Christmas Jumpers. Social proof is real. So humans learn from watching others. We look at other people, what they're doing, what they're wearing. You know, we're influenced. You know, influencers didn't just arrive out of nowhere for no reason. We are influenced by other people heavily. So figure out how you can get your product into the hands of people that have a high profile or a large following. You're literally a DM away from anyone in the world. Think about that. And we talked about this with the Clean Cut Meals guys as well. And Mihal, you know, you literally can DM anybody. I was asking him, I'll talk about Mihal shortly, but I was asking him how he got James McLean as an ambassador, the Irish footballer. He sent him a DM. Simple as that. So think about how you can get, you know, your product into the hands. It has to be appealing. You have to do it in a very correct way and build a relationship, but it's possible. Next, we have James Murphy, founder of Zest Fitness and Beatbox Gym. James is a fantastic entrepreneur because when his business was at its peak, he completely shifted gears. Went 360. He went 180, and his message was evolve or die. So even when you're at the peak of your career, you have to be evolving. No matter how successful you are, your business has to be continually evolving because tastes and trends change like that. And if you're head down, working away, you literally can get left behind. You look up and suddenly tastes have completely changed. So James had a super successful personal training business and he changed it all and started a boxing gym on Leeson Street and it's now going so well. Next, we've Carol O'Brien, and he's the founder of Effector, a social media agency, and his advice was age is not a barrier. You know, you don't have to have years and years of experience and be like the number one leader in your field. You just have to do it. Be able to do the job really well, and your age, race, location, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Carol started his business, and he was 14 maybe, in school, and he was on the phone with like CEOs of all these companies all across the world, but because he was so good at what he did, it didn't matter. Next, we have Devin Hughes, big friend of the pod. Congrats to Devin, just secured massive funding for Buy Me, so congrats to him. And Devin's advice is one of my favorites, and it's something I repeat to people all the time. Ideas are easy, execution is everything. We get hung up and we kind of glorify ideas. Ideas are everything. Oh, I have this great idea for a product. That's great. The execution of how you get that product from in here into your laptop, into whatever it is, whether it's a website or it's a physical product, is huge. 100 people could have the same idea at the same time. One person will probably be successful because they're able to take the execution of the idea and make it happen. So ideas are easy, execution is everything. Timing matters. This is from Siobhan O'Hagan. Siobhan runs OH Fitness, online fitness coaching program, and timing will play a huge role. Call it timing, call it luck, but timing will have a huge definition on how your business succeeds or doesn't. Siobhan started her business just as Instagram was starting to gain traction, and the two converged at just the right time as Siobhan shared her journey on her social media following, grew a massive following back when organic reach was real on Instagram and you could actually grow a following. She had brilliant content, very engageable, and she has subsequently built her business on the back of that. If she was starting today, it'd be a very different business. Maybe she'd have to go on TikTok first and build a business there, but timing will play a huge part. The next one is from Niall Horgan. I was wearing their hoodie literally a little while ago. I took it off to do the pod because it's all ripped from the puppy chewing it. Niall Horgan is the CEO and co-founder of Gym and Coffee. It's a fantastic Irish brand. And his advice was build a community around your brand. So kind of like Dave's advice about building an audience, Gym and Coffee are equally as well known for the fantastic events that they run. I was at their third birthday party it's the Sugarloaf actually in Wicklow. I don't know why I went blank on that there for a second. And there was about 600 people on a January morning. It was cold, it was wet, but 600 people had turned up all in the Gym and Coffee gear to walk up to Sugarloaf together. For no other reason than the lads had built such a passionate community around their brand and their product and what they do and what they stand for. So try build a community around your product about what you're trying to do. Next up, we have Shane Monaghan, another great friend of the pod, a good friend of mine. Shane is CEO and founder of Lemur, the social audio app. So take your original plans and treble it. This is such a simple nugget. And again, this is one I repeat to people all the time because when you think back on your own business journey, it's so true. Take however long you think it'll take you and however much you think it'll cost you and treble it. And that will more or less be true because we all think, oh, you know what, 1 year. Yeah, of course, I can smash it in 1 year. I can do great things in 1 year, and you can. But it will take much, much, much longer. So take your original plans and treble them. Next up, we have Quaylon Cullen, founder of Arctic Stone Ice Cream. And Quaylon's advice was to stop forcing it. So idea inspiration, I am so guilty of this. I sit at this desk and I'm like, okay, great idea. I'm going to come up with brilliant ideas today. And you're just stuck and you're like, okay, I'm going to do 60 minutes in idea mode. And you're literally sitting at the desk, and you're reading things, and you're on Twitter, and you're on LinkedIn, and you're on Instagram, and you're reading articles and papers, and you're trying to force an idea to just suddenly pop out of your head. And instead, it'll come at a completely random time. Quaylon was on holidays in, I think it was Thailand. He saw these guys. He'd already been in, idea mode, thinking about what he wanted to do, start his own business. And he saw these guys doing rolled ice cream. And he was just mesmerized watching them, started chatting to them. And the more he watched them, the more the idea kind of formed in his head. He's like, I'm going to take that concept, tweak it, make it my own, make it better, bring it back to Ireland. So stop forcing it. Ideas will come. Just be open and be receptive to them. Next is from James McCormick. He's the founder of Dublin Barista School. And James's advice is very powerful. And this is probably the number one productivity hack that you can have. We're all searching for these hacks. How do I get better? How do I, save more time? How do I make more time? How do I, get more efficient? And James' advice is amazing. Learn how to say no. And that sounds so obvious, but learn how to say no. Say no to opportunities that may seem like fantastic opportunities, and maybe they are. But by learning how to say no and focus on what's truly important, you won't get pulled out in many different directions. And it's an evaluation. Obviously, sometimes great opportunities come up. You should say yes. But saying yes to everything then means down the line, you're going to be spread so thin. And this happened, James, with his earlier businesses. On his first kind of entrepreneurial life, as we'll call it, he was involved in a cafe, and then a restaurant, then another restaurant, then another restaurant, and he was just pulled so thin that he says himself his focus was just everywhere, and he couldn't focus on the things that really mattered. So learn how to say no. Next bit of advice is from Sonia Deasy, the CEO and co-founder of Pestle and Mortar. And Sonia's advice is, your vision is only limited by your ambition. Sonia was so impressive. There's certain people that just stick and burn in your memory as a guest. Sonia was so impressive in her scope of how she thought. She thought globally, and she talked globally, and she almost manifested that into, what her business stands for. So they thought globally. With Pestle and Mortar, they thought globally from the very start. And because of that, they're now a massive global company. I'm not saying think it and it'll, I want a Lamborghini arrives outside your door. But if you think big enough and have the competency and the product behind you, you are only limited by what your goals are. If you want to be the number one product in Ireland, that's a super goal. But why could you not be the number one product in Ireland and the UK? Why could you not be the number one product in Ireland, the UK, and Europe? What's limiting your scope of thought? So for her, it was all about thinking big. For them, from the very start, they thought big. And because of that, they got on QVC in the States, went on that, completely sold out within a couple of hours, and that has launched them globally in the States. So your vision is only limited by your ambition. Next, we have Shane Ryan. Shane is the founder of Feed. You'll see Feed popping up everywhere at the minute because their food is perfect for quarantine because it comes in little pouches. It's healthy, it's easy to make, and it's able to be distributed widely. So Feed, and Shane's advice is persistence beats resistance. And I love this. And Shane's a very real, genuine guy. Our conversation in the pod, a lot of it focused around mental health as entrepreneurs, and something that isn't really talked about very much is how much a toll it can take on you. And Shane's journey really took a toll on him, and he experienced a lot of tough setbacks at the start, but the key thing is here, he just didn't give up. And that sounds easy, it's a nice little soundbite to say now when you're sitting comfortably. Persistence beats resistance. But failure only defines you if you stop. If you stop, and I talked about this with Jenny McGann a couple of weeks ago, when you fail, it's super tough, and you feel all sorts of weird emotions, shame, anger, regret, all that kind of stuff. But it only defines you if you stop. If you look back and you go, okay, I made a mess of this, didn't do that right, here's what I'm going to do now, bang, bang, bang. So if it stops you in your tracks and you're like, oh, I failed, that's the end of the journey. That's the only time it really is a failure, if you don't learn anything from it and keep going. Next up, we have Dan Nugent. Dan is the co-founder of Amber Eyewear. And Dan's advice is great, and this is what most entrepreneurs ask is, when do I know? When do I know the time is right? And Dan's advice was, stop waiting for the perfect moment. So Dan and Sasha, his partner, started their business from their kitchen table in their apartment while they were expecting their first child. So there's no perfect moment. It'll never, ever, ever come. It just doesn't exist. Is starting a business in the middle of a lockdown the perfect moment? Yeah, why not? We've got nothing but time. There are other factors that are counting against you. Distribution, blah, 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 blah. Go online. There is no perfect moment, but the perfect moment is the day you start. That's the perfect moment. Next, we have Gareth Flower, as I mentioned him already. He's the founder of Park B&P. And Gareth's been on the show a couple of times. We did a live broadcast with Gareth as well. And Gareth's advice, perfect for a little soundbite like this: hire hard, manage soft. Spend a lot of time initially in picking the right people. because there is a tendency, especially when you're in a high growth company in tech, that you just want to get people on board. I've been in big companies and seen this happen. I've seen companies hire hundreds of people, and you see it put on LinkedIn as almost like a boast. Oh, we're 300% up this year in hiring. We've hired 600 people. That's bonkers when you think about it logically. Hiring people and getting them on board and getting them into the right culture and the right fit for your organization is very, very, very hard. But by spending time initially, getting to know them properly, spending time with them as a person as well, not just like reading a CV. CVs are absolute garbage. That's not who a person is. Getting to know them as a person and understanding what makes them tick, what motivates them, and then manage soft. So when you hire the right people, you don't need to micromanage them. Micromanaging is a sign of the worst manager you can possibly have. If you've got someone over your shoulder, we've all had them. We've all had managers who are just checking in all the time, micromanaging, seeing, did you send that email? Oh, send that email to me before you send it out. You don't, if you're a great entrepreneur and a successful entrepreneur, you're not going to have time to do that. And if you're an entrepreneur in a small business, you need to hire people who are capable and competent to do their own thing. So hire hard and manage soft. Next, we've Gary Lavin. He's the founder of Bit Hit Drinks. And Gary's advice was get out there and get your hands dirty. Get involved. So Gary's business was 10 years in the making. So he's 10 years trying to get this business to profitability and to success. And now we see it on every shelf in Ireland, all across the globe. I think they're going to do 10 million units last year. I'll check that stats, but I think it's 10 million. That's a crazy amount. But when Gary was starting out, he just couldn't get the traction. He was trying and just couldn't get the traction. So what he did was he loaded up, I think it was his Jeep or a van, and he drove around Ireland for a year. I think of that commitment to drive around Ireland and stay in all these little B&Bs. It's a great episode. You should go back and listen to even just this story of how he drove from town to town to town to town, went in every single shop in a town, chatted to the owner, chatted to the manager, and literally physically put the product on shelves. He went to 3,500 stores and got the product into them. Like, that sort of commitment and dedication. And we live in an age of digital and I won't say easiness, but ease, and a lot of distribution is kind of invisible. You don't think about how your drinks get on the shelf, etc. You just go in, pick one up, and walk out. So, like, how are you going to get your product into people's hands? It's not enough to create a great product. It's not enough to create a great service. There's a big gap between where that is and where your product is. So you need to think about how you're going to get that product into people's hands. Our next bit of advice is from Jack Teeling, the founder of Teeling Whiskey. And it's how badly do you want it? How badly do you want to make something happen? Just because something hasn't been done ever or in a long time, it doesn't mean it can't be done. So Jack and his family founded the first distillery in Dublin in over 125 years. Like, that's a crazy statistic. And it's now grown. We all know how big Teeling is now. It's an international brand after just 5 years. That's crazy. So how badly do you want it? How badly do you want to will this into existence? Next tip is from James Brogan, founder of Pep Talk and Legacy Communications. James is a former Dublin footballer, very, very, very successful athlete. And his analogy was, it's sustainable performance over a long period of time. And that's kind of the ethos of Pep Talk, the company he's founded. But it's a marathon, not a sprint. So think of, if you want a little nugget, it's the marathon, not a sprint. So, when you're starting a business, there's this myth that you should be grinding 24/7, 365, the founder, all this kind of stuff of the founder sitting at his desk, falling asleep at his desk. It's garbage. You can do it once, twice, 3 times maybe, a week, a month, and you burn out. I've been there, and most founders I talk to, especially first-time founders, have been there. It's sustaining high performance over and over and over and over again. And that's not sexy, and that's not a great little soundbite, and that's why it's not popular. But high performance over a long period of time, you think of an athlete, you think of any high performing athlete, that's what they do. They perform continuously well over a long career. If you think of Ronaldo, anyone at the highest level, like, to perform like that over a long period of time, you can't just burn yourself out in the first 6 months. So it's a marathon, not a sprint. Next advice is from Chris Lauder, the founder of the Dublin Academy of Education. His advice is, don't reimagine the wheel. Sorry, His advice is don't reinvent the wheel, reimagine it. So Chris took a really old idea, or I suppose you'd call it like an area, education, and reimagined it completely. When I walked into Chris's school in Stillorgan in Dublin, it was more akin to walking into maybe somewhere like a Google or somewhere like a tech company, or a very, very, very advanced college, not a secondary school. It was not like Nina CBS. This was very, very, very different. So, he reimagined everything. So there's no brand new, I'll preface that, there's very few brand new ideas. All the ideas have been done before in one shape or another, but that doesn't mean you can't take it and completely transform what it is. If someone said to you, oh yeah, I'm going to start a school, you'd be like, cool, yeah, sounds exciting. But Chris completely turned the whole thing on his head. He reimagined everything that a school could be. So don't reinvent the wheel, reimagine what it looks like. Next is Luke Mackey. He was the founder and CEO of Bamboo, and it's becoming immune to rejection. Get used to rejection. That sounds like a weird thing to say, but you're going to hear no so many times. You'll probably hear no in your first year as an entrepreneur than you will have had in the rest of your life. So get used to it. It's a horrible thing to hear. If you've worked in sales, you'll know what that's like, but oftentimes entrepreneurs haven't. Sales is seen like almost like a dirty word. So if you get used to the feeling of rejection, it becomes immune, and you get better at hearing no, and you get better at turning that into a yes. And that's where you want to end up. You don't want to hear no. You want to hear no, okay, but why? What's the feedback? How can we turn this into a yes? That almost sounds like a cliche thing like you hear on Billions or something like that. How do you turn this no into a yes? But that is the question. If that's where you need to move the conversation, is how do you get that no into a yes? So become used to hearing the word no, take it on board, get feedback, turn it into a yes. The next is from Micheál Dyer, and he's the co-founder of Clean Cut Meals. The guys are doing great work during the Corona shutdown. They're supplying frontline workers and supplying thousands of people across Ireland with food during this tough time. So understand your customer to understand your business. So I'll repeat that one more time. Understand your customer to understand your business. Go hyper specific on who your customer is. Understand who they are, what they look like, where they live, what they do, what makes them tick. Like, you can build up a really comprehensive customer profile just by listening. Listen to your customer, listen to what they're telling you, listen to the feedback you're getting in the product, listen to the emails people are sending, the chats that you're having, and then build up a profile. Know who they are, not in a stalker way, but know who they are, what they look like, what they're talking to you about, and then you can launch new products based on that. Oh, I love your product, except I'd love if it did this. There's your best market research you never get in the world. So understand your customer to understand your business better. The next is from Sean Toomey, and the co-founder of Team Human. I visited their workshop, and it was a bit like Tony Stark in Iron Man. It's just, you're looking at all these things the guys are just built with their bare hands. It's so rare to go somewhere these days where physical things are actually taken from a sketchbook or a CAD drawing on a laptop and brought to life. It was incredibly cool, and they've just moved to a new workshop as well, so I'm dying to go out and see that. But when you're developing your product, go face to face with your customers. So get out there and talk to people. A lot of our stuff today is done on the research. Someone comes up with an idea. Oh, how did you research it? Oh, I Googled it. I just went online and Googled it. That's great and all, but you do need to get face to face, because there's nuances to being face to face. There's nuances between me recording the podcast, just talking into the microphone, you hearing it on audio, and there's nuances from me sitting looking at a camera. Even for me doing this, it's different. I feel different. So you see my emotion, you see my facial expression. A no over the phone and a no in person is a very different thing. And so you can dig out more and flesh things out more in terms of, the guys they were developing a product for sailors and boats. They went to the marina, stood outside and talked to the sailors as they come in and out. And over that time, they gleaned all these insights they never would have got, by just asking yes/no questions on a Google survey or a SurveyMonkey. By getting face to face with people, you get a whole other layer into the conversation. So go face to face with your potential customers before you even launch the product. Next is Connor Sheridan, founder of Mad Egg. This was an incredibly popular episode for mainly the point I'm going to talk about here. The devil is in the detail. So know everything about your product, about your service. I've done this myself in my own business. I've gone and cleaned properties. I've gone and repair properties. I've done everything. So before he opened his first restaurant, he knew every single detail, right down to the number of knives and forks in the restaurant, and down to, this is possibly my favorite bit, and this is one of the bits that stays with me from my whole 50 episodes. He knew the music he wanted to play that had certain beats per minute that would help people's mood at a certain time of the day. Like, think of that level of detail and understanding about, he wasn't serving the best chicken sandwiches in Dublin, which they are, but he was serving, a mood, an atmosphere, a feeling. When you went there, you felt something, and that was deep because it was the music you hear. When I do certain bits of work, I'll put on certain bits of house music because that brings me to a place of just total focus. So he understood so much, even before he opened it, that he understood exactly what he wanted. So go deep on understanding your business. Go right down to the core and figure out exactly what it is that'll make your business special. Next is John Ryan, founder of Giggable. Again, another company doing unbelievably good work and actually growing during the COVID problems. John founded Giggable a number of years ago now after leaving the army, and what Giggable is that it supplies workers, casual workers. So if you need a delivery driver, if you need someone to come in and just do a couple of shifts in like a bar or a restaurant or a cafe. So during COVID, there's a huge amount of delivery drivers are signing up to help small retailers deliver their product out. Brilliant business. So John's advice was to invest in yourself. And this touches on the earlier point about, not burning yourself out. If you're overly focused on the business, because you will be, as an entrepreneur, it will consume everything you do. So you do need to take a step back and focus on your well-being, physical and mental. Like, go to the gym, make that time. Schedule in. A lot of high performers I've talked to schedule that time into their calendar because, these are busy people, and if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't happen. And that's a great tip, is that schedule in. This might seem like overkill to certain people, but when you do get to a point of being so busy, you will need to schedule these things in or they just won't happen. A million other things will pop up. So John takes this to another level and he logs, and I've started doing this myself, he'll log his diet, his sleep and his mood to ensure that over time he can look back and see where he was performing well. And like James Brogan said, marathon, not a sprint. If you can see the things that you're doing consistently well, you recreate that, you keep doing it, you do more of that. So invest in yourself because that is key to keeping the business going longer term. Seek progress, not perfection. This is from Jennifer Rock, aka The Skin Nerd. She's the founder of, obviously, The Skin Nerd and Skin Ingredients. Super fun chat with Jen. So by letting go of request, and a lot of entrepreneurs are going to identify with this straight away when I say it, remove the quest for perfection. So good is good enough. And that sounds almost like an awful thing to say because you never want to ship something that's bad, but sometimes getting 97% of the way there is close enough. Done is better than perfect. So seek progress, not perfection. And how you do that is you surround yourself with brilliant people. So Jen trusts her team and her advisors, and she's not too proud to say, I don't know something, can you help me? She'll ring up her board of advisors, she'll ring up someone and go, you're a plastic surgeon, or you're a surgeon, or you're a skin expert, can you help me with this? And 99% of the time they will, because it's how you develop that network. Be your own customer. This is from Jamie Halley, the founder of Dynamo and the co-founder of MIA Chocolate. And this is a brilliant episode. Jamie has Dynamo, which is one of the biggest and best design agencies in Ireland. They've designed multiple worldwide brands. But what Jamie did was to be and prove that they were the best design agency, he became his own customer. So he developed the MIA chocolate brand out of his own agency. So he developed everything from the packaging to the product to the design to how it feels to the creative to all of it. He became his own customer. So become your own customer. There's no point continually lashing out products or services if you don't step around the counter or step around the table and view it from the customer's point of view. What does your customer see when they come in? What do they feel? What does it taste like? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What's the tone? What does your website say about you? Become your own customer. View it from the outside. Next is people buy stories. And this is from Evelyn Garland and Luke Judge, the founders of Simply Fit Food. Again, an unbelievable, it's a theme here, an unbelievably great company doing unbelievable things in COVID. I think I just approached great people for for the podcast. People are willing to step outside and do great things. So the guys have Simply Fit Food, and that started from Luke got incredibly ill. He was in hospital. He was getting not great food. Luke is a sportsman. He's an athlete. He cares about what he puts in his body. So when they're in the hospital, Evelyn would bring in healthy snacks, healthy meals, healthy stuff for them. And they're like, the light bulb moment went off, and they're like, okay, this is what we need to do. We need to create a product and a service around this. So they created Simply Fit Food, and it's going unbelievably well. Their story is a great story. I just told it there. I butchered it there in 5 or 10 seconds. Go back to the podcast and listen to the full story, because it's an incredible story. So do people know the story of your business? Do people know why you started? Do people know what your business is all about? Do they know you? Like, we live in, a world now where there's a lot of generic companies. And the best way to stand out is to be honest and to be authentic and to be genuine. And to go on podcasts, to start your own YouTube channel, to write blogs, to do Instagram. Because people buy from people. Like, think about that for a second. You don't buy from, just go into a shelf and you're like, oh yeah, I'll just whatever. You might do that once, but people make an emotional connection with a personal story. That's why people love podcasts, books, movies, because human nature is wired to understand the world we live in through stories. So make your story compelling and tell what the story is behind your business. Every single business has a story behind it, how it started, where it come from, who the people are. No matter what you're doing, tell your story. The next tip is from Andrea Wade, co-founder of Opening.io, and it's invest in your network. And even saying the word network, I don't like networking as a phrase, but being an entrepreneur is a lonely business, and you will, you feel like you're in this bubble where no one really has the same problems as you, but every entrepreneur has the same problems. So become part of a community. Like I mentioned earlier, I have my group, my little mentoring group that we mentor each other. The 6 of us get together once a week now, and the value I've gotten from that in the last 3 months, I couldn't really describe. I wish I'd done it 10 years ago. I wish I started the podcast 10 years ago, and I wish I'd done that 10 years ago. The two things that have given me so much in the last year, because you'll second guess yourself, and you can Google all you want. You can search the internet all you want. You might stumble across the answer eventually, but speaking to someone who's had the exact same problem as you and is able to go, had that problem, here's what you need to do. Like, those words, when you're stuck on a problem, are just invaluable. So get out there, meet people, start a group around yourself. I don't even want to call it a network. You don't go, you don't think, oh, I'm going to go make more friends and be transactional. Don't be transactional. Be genuine, be honest, be open, be interested, and don't do a favor to get one back straight away. Invest in people over time, and you'll get it returned to you 100x. Next one is from Pamela Laird, founder of Moxie Loves. Pamela was such a good guest. We actually split her episode into 2. She was fantastic, and hers is turn your weakness into your strength. I love this one. When she was fired from The Apprentice, many people I think would take that quite badly because it's quite public, but Pamela took the feedback she was given and used it to fuel her business, used it to fuel her success. She decided that, right, okay, I don't have enough products. I'm going to have a new product on shelf by the time the episode airs within the year. That's unbelievable. It had taken her ages up to that point to get products through, and she was caught in different decision-making processes. So she didn't take that as a rejection going, oh, I don't have enough products. Oh well. She took that as fuel and repurposed it to motivate her, to drive her to success. Love that one. Turn your weakness into your strength. That requires you to be super honest with yourself too. Next one is from Mark Littell, the co-founder of Kinsen. And Mark sold Storyful to News Corp. So learn how to fail and fail fast. This is great advice, and this is what a lot of the Entrepreneur Experiment originally started off as, is test. Understand what success means for your business, and then run regular experiments to improve and test those assumptions. So I'll try to break that down a little bit clearer. So when you're trying to do something new in your business, don't spend 6 months building a plan, rebuilding the plan. Decide what you want to do, be decisive, create a small test, create it either, whether it's a web page or whatever it is, whatever you need to do, get a version of the product into your customers' hands, whatever it is you need to do it fast, get quick feedback, yes, no, get the data, understand what's happening, how it worked, and then make a decision based on that. If you have clear parameters for success or failure, you can use that then to get better every single day. So learn how to fail and fail fast. Next is from Brian Kenny, the founder of Minicorp, and it's work harder, not smarter. And this is one of those pieces of advice that I got when I was working on work experience in Intel way back when I was in college in UL. There was this older gentleman who used to come in cool as a breeze. I heard this phrase during the week and I thought it was a great one. He was as cool as the other side of the pillow. He'd just swan in, do his work, sit down, wouldn't get involved in any rubbish, wouldn't get involved in any nonsense, and glide out. And we were like, Brendan, what's the story? And I always remember he just turned to me, he's like, work smarter, not harder. And it's so obvious that it's unbelievably true. So the only certainty in business is constant change. Things are going to evolve so fast. Like, look at the last 2 months as an example. You know, things we never, in a million years, if I give you €1 million, could you have written the script of some things that have happened in the last month. So this should be a lesson to us all. Nothing is certain. The only thing is certain is change. So make sure you're always taking your time to look up and look at the bigger picture. Look where you're going. Brian gives the brilliant analogy of, you know, you're in a submarine and you're going along, you're driving the submarine, or whatever term you'd use to sail in the submarine, whatever it is, and you're going along and you're going at, like, say 5 degrees, and suddenly you look away and it changes itself to 6 degrees. That 1 degree means instead of heading for New York, you're heading for South America over a long period of time. And the same is true for your business. If you're like grinding away, it comes back to our earlier point, all these points build upon each other. If you're grinding away, head down on your laptop, not talking to people, just banging away, you might miss something so fundamental and so huge that by the time you finish the product or finish the company or whatever it is, you've missed your chance. The next one is from Shekinah Amon. He's the co-founder of TouchTake Payments. They sold Stripe. Unbelievable success story and a great episode. It kind of didn't get the credit it deserved. When I chatted to Shekinah, it was the middle of, not the middle, but just right at the end before everything shut down. It was my last in-person interview before COVID. Hopefully not my last ever, but it was my last interview, and it was released just in the lockdown week, so it didn't get the attention it deserves. So if you have time, go back and listen to it, because Shekinah's story is just unbelievable for such a young guy. Draw a straight line to success. One thing that struck me about him was his self-confidence and self-belief is off the charts. He's definitely top 5 of the people I've met in my life with self-confidence and self-belief. And I asked him, where does this come from? You know, how did you figure all this out when you were so young? He started when he was 17, 18 in school and worked on it during college. And he just looked at me like I was a moron. And he was like, draw a straight line to success. So he was incredibly honest, and he shared his thing was he wanted to be rich, which I found so refreshing. We kind of dance around that in Ireland. We kind of like, oh, well, you know, I'd like to be successful, and, you know, I'd like to have a nice house. He was like, yeah, I want to be rich. And that's so refreshing. Say what you want. I want to be rich. Great. Brilliant. More people should be like that. And he just drew a line to success. He's like, right, I'm here. I want to be rich. That's a straight line. What do I need to do? I need to make my company super successful. I'm going to do that. And he worked every single day. And that's one of the hardest things in life as well as business, is having that consistent motivation no matter what you're doing, whether it's a new workout plan, a new business, whatever it is. Having that perpetual motion engine inside you that ticks over every day, and you're just going forward and you're getting better, and you have that consistent eye on the prize mentality of, you know, you can focus over a very, very, very long period of time. It's a rare gift. That's something I think we all need to work on a little bit more. So the next one is Brett Myers. Brett is the founder of Currency Fair. This was my first interview done via Zoom, so very interesting. I interviewed Brett and the current CEO of Currency Fair together, so it was a very unusual dynamic, and it worked really well. And Brett's advice was, we talked a lot about, you know, COVID and, you know, managing a crisis and starting in a recession. And Brett's advice was to imagine the worst case scenario. Plan for the worst case scenario, no matter what you're doing, whether it's, even if it's just a normal plan that you're running in your business, you know, plan for the worst case scenario. And as the cliche goes, which is true, the more you get older, the more you learn that cliches just become true. Is plan for the worst, hope for the best. And if your business can survive the worst case scenario and you've managed it correctly, well then, no matter what happens, you're set. You know, if you can manage the worst case scenario and you're like, yeah, we can manage our cash flow, we can get through it, then everything else is a bonus. It's very rare that the very, very, very worst case scenario will happen. So when it happens, you're still set. If not, make hard choices to sustain cash flow. Cash flow is everything to a business, even in a crisis. It's most important. And Paul's then, this was part of the same interview, but I want to include it because it's such good advice, especially in the current month that we're in. Paul's advice was, when managing in a crisis or an economic downturn, cash flow, gotta preserve it. So cut hard, cut early. So cut hard, cut early. What does that mean? Cut the overheads and the expenses. Make the tough decisions in the early stages to ensure your business can survive, to ensure it's not going to be a death by 1,000 cuts. This week you lose a little bit more, this week you lose a little bit more. Make hard decisions early and go forward. Next week, Glenn Hines from the Start of Accountant. Glenn's episode was packed with useful nuggets, so super easy to pick one out of it here. And it was keep it simple. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Starting a company can be very overwhelming. You only need three main things to start a company in Ireland. You need to register the company, sole trader, limited company, whatever it is. You need to open your bank account, and you need to register with the government for tax. That's it. Once you've those three things done, you are good to go. Next is Jenny McGann, founder of Prowlster and Opsh. Tough times make resilient entrepreneurs. So if you can start a business now in the recession and the tough economic period, your chances of success are going to be multiplied 10, 50, 100x. Starting a company when cash is scarce and people don't have much money to spend means you will be so much better as a marketer and as an entrepreneur and as a salesman, because you will not waste a cent. You will know that the customer's money is so important that you will not waste 1 cent in your marketing and in the customer's need, because you will want to match that as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So tough times make resilient entrepreneurs. Great advice. And our last tip is stealth mode is a load of shit. So what that means is, don't be hiding your idea. We talked about this a little bit earlier as well. Don't be running around whispering, going, oh, I have a great idea for a business. I'm going to start it soon. I'm going to start it soon. Because you're also going to lie to yourself, because by keeping it inside and thinking you've got this little nugget that no one else knows about, the honest answer is no one's going to steal your idea. And even if they do, this goes back to Devin Hughes' point, even if they do steal your idea, the execution is going to be so fundamentally different to what you do, it doesn't really matter, because it'll be so different. So the idea is only the starting point. So talk to people, get people's opinions, get people's feedback. Again, it comes back to the point that Sean Toomey makes. Talk to people, get their opinion. The minute you say it out of your mouth, it becomes real. It's now more real to you. You've now said this to your people. You've said it to your friends, to your family, to your peers, people you respect. If you don't follow through on that, well then what's going to happen? And that is it. We've blasted through 37 unbelievable tips from every guest that's been on the Entrepreneur Experiment so far. Thank you to them all. And thank you most of all to you for listening. I hope you found value in that. Just to recap, this is live on YouTube as well, so head over to YouTube, have a look, give it a subscribe. We're going to do the new format, so starting next week, we will still have, don't worry, we'll still have the long form interviews, but they'll be supplemented by extra episodes of shorter form content, different ways. We're going to mix it up, especially now we're doing videos for YouTube. We'll mix it up with 5 or 10 minute quick, short, snappy videos. And then the book club starts in June. So on the episode on the 28th of May, I'll reveal what book we're going to read. We'll all get together and we'll read that book in June. Thank you so much for listening. This has been episode 51 of the Entrepreneur Experiment. If you do have a bit of free time this week, do share the episode on social media. I really do appreciate it. It helps a lot. And if you have time, jump on iTunes and give it a quick review. I'll be back next week with episode 52. Thank you so much for listening. Have a safe and brilliant week.